breaking news from the frontier of our solar system. At precisely 0347 UTC, a coordinated array of instruments, from the Atacama Large Millimeter Array in Chile to the European Space Network's deep space antennas in New Norcia, detected a signal. It was not an explosion, not a collision, not any form of stellar debris. It was a pulse. A singular, coherent burst of electromagnetic energy emanating from the object we have been tracking for months, known as 3I Atlas. The pulse lasted for exactly 1.414 seconds, a duration that is already sending shockwaves through the scientific community. Today, the impossible just happened. Every assumption, every carefully constructed model about this interstellar visitor has been rendered obsolete. This is not a story of a comet. This changes everything we thought we knew about our place in the cosmos. If you want to follow this unfolding cosmic mystery, hit like and subscribe. What you are about to hear will redefine the boundaries of reality itself. The authority on this event is not a single person or institution, but a global consortium of minds and machines. At NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory in Pasadena, data streams in from the Deep Space Network. At the European Space Agency's Operations Center in Darmstadt, analysts stare at screens fed by the Gaia Observatory and the soon-to-be-launched Comet Interceptor mission teams, mobilized prematurely. At Harvard's Institute for Theory and Computation, servers hum with new simulations, and in a quiet control room at the Caltech-operated Owens Valley Radio Observatory, a postdoctoral researcher named Dr. Aris Thorne was the first human being to see the raw signal. The initial assumption, the foundational belief that 3I Atlas was a rare but natural piece of interstellar debris, a shard of frozen nitrogen, a fractal aggregate of cosmic dust, has just been irrevocably shattered. We established its origin, traced its hyperbolic path from the constellation Lyra, measured its non-gravitational acceleration. We were confident. We were, it turns out, profoundly mistaken. The story of our error begins not with the pulse, but 48 hours before. 3I Atlas was 1.2 astronomical units from Earth, inbound, moving at a steady 37 kilometers per second relative to the Sun. The Hubble Space Telescope, tasked with a routine spectroscopic analysis, recorded a subtle but definitive shift. The object's albedo, its reflectivity, increased by 4.7% across its entire surface, uniformly within a 20-minute observation window. No rotational phase could explain it. It was as if the entire, irregular 5-kilometer-long body had been polished. Caltech's Dr. Eliza Vance, reviewing the data, noted in her log, spectral signature now shows a pronounced dip at 18.7 micrometers, consistent with crystalline silicates, but the formation temperature required is implausible for a body in deep space. Her note was filed, flagged for review. It was the first thread. 11 hours later, the Atacama Array detected a thermal anomaly. A localized region near one of the object's presumed termini began radiating heat. The temperature spike was minimal, only 12 Kelvin above the ambient 31 Kelvin of the surrounding surface, but it was confined to a near-perfect circle 800 meters in diameter. The energy source was unknown. No cometary outgassing, no venting was detected. The heat appeared, persisted for 47 minutes, and then vanished. At the same time, the Pan-STARRS Survey telescope in Hawaii recorded a minute but measurable change in the object's trajectory, a delta V of 0.003 centimeters per second. A trivial amount, yet it was a deviation from the precisely predicted gravitational path. It was a nudge, controlled, intentional. The scientific investigation that followed was a frantic, global effort. Two opposing hypotheses crystallized in secure video conferences between NASA, ESA, and academic leaders. Hypothesis A, championed by Dr. Marcus Lee of the University of Colorado's Laboratory for Atmospheric and Space Physics, posited a series of exotic natural processes. Perhaps 3I Atlas was a fragment of a super-Earth exoplanet with a complex, layered interior now warming under the sun. The heat spike could be a subsurface pocket of volatile clathrates suddenly destabilizing. The trajectory shift could be a non-uniform jet, too faint for our instruments to directly image. We are applying Occam's razor. The universe is complex. We are seeing a new class of geological activity in an extrasolar body, Lee argued. Hypothesis B, spearheaded by Dr. Aris Thorne from Caltech and quietly supported by several senior figures at the Breakthrough Listen project, was far radical. The spectral shift, the localized heating, the micromaneuver, these were not random natural events. They were signatures of a system, a dormant system that was now, for reasons unknown, activating. Dr. Thorne's models suggested the object's structure, based on light curve analysis and radar tomography from the Green Bank telescope, was not just heterogeneous, but possessed a degree of symmetric internal density variation that defied random accretion. No natural process could produce such nested geometric regularity, Thorne stated in a now leaked memo. It's a structure. It may be a machine. The debate was fierce, contained in private channels. Public press releases spoke only of ongoing analysis of surprising new data. Then came the escalation. 28 hours before the main pulse, all 6 fragments of 3I Atlas, the 16 reported earlier had coalesced into 6 larger stable pieces following an earlier disruption event, began to rotate, not independently, but in perfect synchrony. Each fragment adjusted its spin axis until they were all aligned perpendicular to the plane of the ecliptic. The maneuver required minuscule but precise energy expenditures, detected a series of thermal flashes by the James Webb Space Telescope's Army instrument. The energy signature was identical across all 6 fragments. This was no longer random. It was coordinated. It was responding. The control rooms fell silent. The data was too clean, too perfect. Hypothesis A began to crumble under the weight of impossible synchrony. The revelation arrived with the pulse itself. At 0347 UTC, the synchronized fragments emitted not light, not heat, but a broadband radio pulse. It swept from 1.42 gigahertz, the iconic hydrogen line, the whisper of the universe, up to 4.2 gigahertz and back down in a precisely modulated sweep. The pulse duration, 1.414 seconds, the square root of 2, a fundamental mathematical constant. The signal was not aimed at Earth, it was omnidirectional, a declaration to the cosmos, but its content, decoded by the Allen telescope array in a frantic hour of processing, froze the blood of every scientist who saw it. Buried within the pulse's modulation was a perfect, noise-free replica of the wow signal, the famous 72-second burst detected by the Big Ear radio telescope in 1977, humanity's greatest enduring cosmic mystery. 3I Atlas was not just signaling, it was echoing our own history back to us, a history it should have no possible way of knowing. The human and global reaction was one of controlled professional terror. At ESA's mission control, all non-essential communications were halted. At NASA, a Level 4 security protocol, reserved for confirmed extraterrestrial contact, was quietly enacted. Encrypted channels between Washington, Moscow, Beijing, and Paris hummed with urgent, terse exchanges. There were no public statements, yet the effects were subtle, pervasive. For a period of 1.414 seconds during the pulse, 3 high-altitude research satellites experienced single-event upsets in their guidance systems. A migratory flock of Arctic terns over the North Sea, famed for navigating by Earth's magnetic field, veered 15 degrees off course simultaneously. Magnetometer stations in Sweden and Canada recorded a synchronous 3 nanotesla perturbation in the planetary magnetic field. The object was not targeting us, but its mere activity was a pebble dropped into the pond of our local space environment, and the ripples touched everything. In the philosophical calm that follows the initial shock, we are forced to reflect. We stand at a precipice, looking into a darkness that is suddenly full of mind. For centuries, we have gazed at the stars and wondered if we were alone. We constructed our myths, our religions, our science fiction around that aching question. Today, we have an answer. It is not the answer we expected. There is no grand fleet, no obvious artifact. There is only a silent, fractured traveler performing an intricate, incomprehensible ballet on the stage of our solar system, and in its motion, proving its intelligence. Perhaps this is not an invasion, nor even a visitation. Perhaps it is a test, a beacon, a library, or a tomb broadcasting the last message of a long-dead civilization. The intent is ambiguous, and in that ambiguity lies both our greatest hope and our most primal fear. Maybe we're not witnessing the